But I'm going to go on to take this last call from Lee in Canada. He, him. And he says, I understand the scientific method isn't about proving a hypothesis to be true, but to fail to prove it false. Do I have this right? Please discuss. Hi, Lee. How you doing? Hello, Lee.
Hello?
Hello,
yeah,
are you?
we hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Uh-oh, now I'm going to be in trouble.
You're sure right.
I don't know. Maybe I worded it right or wrong. I'm not sure. But I'm a science teacher. I'm also a math teacher, and I've studied enough philosophy to be confused. But it's my understanding that science is based on the scientific method, and that the scientific method uses inductive reasoning, where you're gathering evidence to try to find out if a hypothesis is false. And you never really prove that a hypothesis is true. But if we want to prove something, that's more in deductive reasoning, which I would do like if I'm teaching geometry in 2-column proofs, that sort of thing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's kind of a matter of philosophical. Like we all talk about things in loose terms. We have loose associations with terms. But so when you start speaking strictly like philosophically or logically, you can always nitpick what somebody's saying. Like, well, that's not really an example of blank because you're not doing this, that, or the other thing. Falsificationism was first popularized by Karl Popper. It's really attractive because it deals with exactly what you're talking about. 2 + 2 = 4. There's no, that can't not be true. It's essentially, it's not the same as a deductive argument, but it's in the spirit of what you were talking about earlier. Well, with science, there can always be missing information, or we get, and not even false positives, but like we can have ideas in science that say this is causing that, but they're kind of low resolution answers. And then we learn that there's actually something else in play here that contributes to it. So our original idea wasn't 100% true. So science doesn't deal in absolutes, but science can prove that things are false. That's a little bit that's a little bit better. So yes, this idea, if you take this framework, then you can discuss it that way. We just proved that the hypothesis isn't false, rather than proving that it's true. So I have more to say about that, but I want to let you, jump in a couple times here too.
Sure. I'm glad I'm not entirely. I have some idea about that. The one reason I bring it up is like I find a lot of times I'm an atheist, and a lot of times I'll get someone trying to defend religion, suggesting that science is no better than religion. They're basically the same thing, because you can't prove science just like you can't prove religion. And then so the idea of what exactly do we mean by proof then becomes very important in making the distinction between science and religion, and especially that bad argument about science being just another religion. Yeah,
words have multiple definitions. The word set has like over 200 different definitions, and proof in the deductive sense, or in the strict logical sense, or in the mathematical sense, means this very strict thing of where it is like I guess you could call it an absolute truth, or not even a brute fact, but like there's nothing else there. You're at the bottom of the barrel when you solve the mathematical proof. But proof can also just mean information that increases the likelihood of a conjecture. That's what proof means as well. I mean, we use that kind of term in the court of law. And again, in the court of law, you're not declared innocent. You're declared not guilty, right? It's either guilty or not guilty in the same spirit of this, the way we kind of think about science in this philosophical sense. That's also what happens. You have to prove somebody's guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. It's not about absolutes or anything like that. But the thing with science is that science doesn't prove science, but there's this what you can call recursive aspect of it. So no, you can't use the scientific method to prove itself, absolutely. But what you can do is if you apply the scientific method, working on whatever presuppositions you have about the natural world, about whatever, the scientific method yields the kinds of results you would predict. So it validates itself. And that's, we can call that recursion rather than like strict proof or something like that. Or in an even easier or a simpler sense, science works. Whereas religion doesn't have the ability to really explain anything. It makes absolutely no predictions. It doesn't contribute to epistemology in any kind of way. In fact, it's the only kind of support for it is where you do the exact opposite, the apologetics, where you retroactively try to fit explanations into data that actually isn't accounted for.
Good answer.
We could talk more, and then what comes to my mind when you say that too is, well, then of course faith raises its head. Then you can base knowledge on faith, according to some, and which would be the opposite of using scientific method to gain knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, you start with axioms and presuppositions, but everybody has to do that. But like with science and testing the natural world, we know, like whatever assumptions you make, we know things about the natural world and those assumptions that we use again to get results about it. Whereas like with the religious claim, we don't know how miracles work. We don't know how a God does anything. So the idea that we would ever be able to do an investigation and be like, yep, yeah, the Red Sea definitely parted. We figured out how to supernaturally or miraculously explain that. It's like, no, you fundamentally cannot do that. The only thing you could ever possibly do is exhaust any alternative explanation, throw up your head and pretend that because other people didn't score any goals, that means that the ball went in your net. But that's not what that means at all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, Lee, thank you for calling. I wish I had taken your call, or you had called and we had taken it earlier, because it was a great conversation. I appreciate it.